Yeah, we're 2 minutes late. Calm down, people.
Yeah, I know, right? Every time we do these things, it's always someone's always got to say something about, hey, you're late. And you know what? Fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Wow.
Anyway. Yeah, good way to start. So yeah, very family friendly around here. Anyway. Are we going to start this? Anyway, so we are back here with another live stream, and we're very excited to have Stephen Clyde of the Peace and Liberty podcast. So, Stephen, you can go ahead and introduce yourself, tell people who you are, and why are you a libertarian?
Hey, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I watch your guys' show all the time. You guys have grown a ton since the beginning of the year. I think we were just talking before this, and you guys started around like January, February. I just started podcasting around March, so I think we probably all can discuss all the struggles we've gone through, but I know how it is. My name is Stephen Clyde. I host the Peace and Liberty podcast. I also host another podcast that's on the Launchpad Media. It's called The State versus You. It's a kind of new show, and I'm working out the kinks in that show, but I should have another episode out today, so we can link to all that later. But why am I libertarian? Because I believe everybody has the right to live their lives the way they want to. I mean, that's kind of the basic point. I became a libertarian after I took an economics class, my third semester of college. So that's kind of how I evolved to be a libertarian. I found out about Ron Paul, 2008. I'm curious in your guys' story, though, because I love Hapas Supremacy, the name. It's super troll, super non-PC. How did you guys, I want to interview you guys for a sec. How did you guys start this, and how'd this come about?
How did we start a channel or being libertarian?
Well, how'd you have the idea for this?
People kept attacking us for racial, what do you call it? Like, I guess basically people from Reddit kept attacking us.
Yeah, because get this, it's crazy, but we have an Asian mom, both of us, and a white dad, so automatically we're white supremacists. I know, crazy, right? So yeah, we named it Hapas Supremacy as basically as a troll. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, and then we joke about that we're going to make it a Hapa ethno state.
Yeah.
Because we're white supremacists.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's pretty funny. Well, how'd you guys end up becoming libertarians?
I mean, it's kind of a culmination of things. I don't remember exactly the episode, but I do remember listening to Dave Smith's Part of the Problem podcast, and that kind of got me down to a rabbit hole. And then I'm still I wouldn't consider myself a libertarian, but I'm more on that road. I'm definitely I think that political stratosphere I think fits where I'm at, more aligned with who I am. But the Part of the Problem podcast, the Scott Horton show, Tom Woods, even Reason Magazine. I know Reason has a bad rap, especially
some seriously bad articles, but then there's some really good ones.
Yeah, they're very hit and miss. But Reason, I never heard of Reason, and then I learned about them, and give them credit. However you want to see them as, I don't know, left libertarian, or I don't know, not doing enough with the foreign policy, or whatever your critiques are for Reason is. I'll credit them as one of the reasons why I, where I am now. And so, and Reason Magazine, and then Reason.com, whatever, and then Antiwar.com, Libertarian Institute, American Conservative, and Consortium News. I mean, Consortium News, the people behind it aren't libertarian, but just their foreign policy and all the stuff that they talk about that you don't see on any of the mainstream media or anything like that. I just shared it. I just shared something that was from the second, I think, of this month. That was Max Blumenthal, because Scott Horton just interviewed him, and it was talking about how Congress, here they had an actual neo-Nazi fascist invited here, and they were talking to him like he was, a celebrity, and nobody gave a fuck around here. Nobody even talked about it. But Richard Spencer, oh, he's a fucking devil. Oh, we need to talk about him every, 24/7. But this, guy from Ukraine or whatever, whoever.
I think Richard Spencer's a super hilarious guy when it comes down to it, because I'll tell you a skit I really want to do on my college campus. it's going to be like a who said it, Marx or Richard Spencer, because if you look at Richard Spencer's Twitter, he tweets out a lot of things that are clearly socialist because, you know, they're national socialists. So basically they want universal health care for whites and all, you know, everything the government will do for whites. That's basically the difference between National Socialism and international socialism. But Richard Spencer has tweeted out things all the time saying like Marx was practically right about everything. We just need to make it socialism for whites. He said that we should have universal health care. So it's kind of funny how, you know, whether it was Hitler, whether it was Stalin, like they were all socialists when it came down to it. They all were very much in favor of state control of everything. And you mentioned Reason Magazine earlier. I think probably one of the problems is just certain authors that, you know, they come out with these articles and I guess it kind of looks like it represents all of Reason, but like it's just like that Matt Welch article from Reason recently bashing the Mises Caucus. So I don't know if I've learned a lot from Reason, and you know, people like Nick Gillespie, I can relate to them at least 60% of the time. Like they're not terrible. I don't mind listening to them. Just I probably disagree with them a lot, but yeah, there's a lot of good sources if you really want to look for the information. It's there.
Yeah, there was an article too that I know got a lot of heat. And you know what I'm talking about. The immigration. There was this immigration article that someone wrote, and their basic answer. I don't know. Maybe I'm misquoting or whatever, but from what I got, I think what a lot of other people got too was we just need to smuggle people better.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's like, so now, you know, this one article from Reason that, you know, big name, you know, people you shared. Roaming Millennial was one of them. Some other people that shared it, and they're just like, well, that's stupid.
It's a bunch of conservatives who are like,
well, even libertarian, like this is retarded. Like, no, this is no, that's not what, you know, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to, you know, so that article right there, you know, and I guess you can kind of say the same thing too, you know, obviously conservatives do the same with liberals and liberals do that with conservatives. You know, it's just, oh, there's one person. So now everyone's like, oh, sorry. But yeah, and then, you know, the one you were just talking about too with Matt Welch, talking about the Mises Caucus and saying that Tom Woods organized the event. I think that was him, right? He said that he organized the event when he just spoke there. He didn't have anything to do with behind the scenes.
Well, you often find that people that post these hit pieces, the things they say sound unbelievable because they're not true. Like obviously, no, it wasn't. It was really Michael Heist. He's really the main guy that organized the whole thing. And I was there for the whole event. It was great. There was no neo-Nazis or any of that. I mean, all that stuff's just ridiculous. It's just trying to paint people who study economics all day and like study Mises, study Hayek, study Rothbard, and just to call them fascists. Well, you know, people like Mises fled from the Nazis, and the Nazis burned his books when he fled. I think a similar thing happened to Hayek, but yeah, I mean, these are people. They're all Jewish, by the way. It's kind of funny, you know, the Mises Institute. People call like Lew Rockwell a fascist. Well, Lew Rockwell used to be given the title Jew Rockwell because all the people he had around him, Murray Rothbard, Burton Bloomer, David Gordon, they're all Jewish. And an institute set up on behalf of a Jewish guy. It's kind of funny. I don't know how people conflate those things. I mean, Lew Rockwell, but for God's sake, he has a book called Fascism and Capitalism, just trashing fascism, obviously.
Yeah, and the audiobook, I believe, is narrated by Scott Horton. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I think also a lot of people say that about, you know, Jews or whatever, because especially with the foreign policy, you know, because yeah, with Israel too, you know, a lot of people want to, you know, they're pro-Israel or just whatever without, and you know, with pretty much, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't really know, and I don't think anyone who tells you they know 100% about the Israel-Palestine situation and they know everything is lying to you. They don't know everything, you know.
Right.
So,
I mean, a lot of the reporting that's done, you kind of have to pick and choose what you want to believe, because obviously some things are biased in favor of one way. Some news outlets are obviously biased in favor of the other way. When you talk about these massive death tolls that occurred, some of them are clearly biased. Some of them are probably understated. My views regarding Israel have definitely evolved over time, because I grew up in a Southern Baptist Christian family. And when you come from a Southern Baptist Christian family, the view is Jews are the chosen people. It says that many times in the Bible, and Israel's the Jewish people's land. That's all there is to it. There's really, I was never asked, I was never taught to ask about these things. It's just you kind of accept it for what they were. Says it in the Bible. That's pretty much it. But then you start to actually research history, and you start to realize that, the Zionist movement that evolved out of the 40s. Well, there were actually many different Zionist movements, and many of them were calling for an Arab and Jewish settlement side by side, to live side by side. Many of them were calling for that, but the Zionist movement that actually came through was a completely divisive one. They didn't want Palestinians to live in the land at all. And there's a lot of debate about, is Palestine even a real land? There is that debate, but here's the thing. You have all these people living on the Gaza Strip. I think the median age in the Gaza is like 14, and they believe that's their land. And in fact, you had like 700,000 people that were evicted throughout the 40s. But these people still have deeds to their house. They're just trying to get back to their actual homes. And it's just like, oh, well, we kicked you out. We won the war. That's it. So there's definitely more to the story. I mean, whatever side you want to end up on, whether you want to be pro-Israel or anti-Israel, it has nothing to do with hating Jewish people. My God. I mean, that was one of the first hints that, I need to research this stuff more, because anytime you ask about this, you're just called an anti-Semite. Well, there seems to be a little bit more to it than that. And I'd say my views have evolved over time to believe that the Palestinians have a definitely decent claim to the land that they were kicked out of, especially if you still have the keys to your old house. I mean, my God, I think people would just think that's fake, but like that's not true.
So obviously that conflict's been going on for, I don't know, a really long time, I guess is a pretty good reading it, but it's kind of like, the Middle East, because there's that argument too. It's like, well, they're going to be fighting forever, so why do you care about what goes on over there? And it's just, well, I mean,
like, why does our military have to be over there?
Right? Yeah.
That's why I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to care unless you have families in the military, as I do, and other people too who, their loved ones are out there fighting for, I don't know. They say it's for your freedom, but is that really what it's for? I mean, no, I guess I'm fucking ignorant that I said that, but I mean, seriously, like, what's the reason that they're over there other than some pretense that they had weapons of mass destruction back when, W. Bush was president, and we're still there fighting for something? I don't know.
I guess it's one of those questions like, is every single veteran evil? Is every single police officer evil? And I think back to how would things work in a free market society? You would still have police officers. They would just work for Joe's security firm. And we'd still have some type of military operations because people want to protect their land that they live on. I don't think it would look like it does today. But regarding Israel, I think they just passed a 10-year plan. It's going to be like $38 billion or more than that. God, I forget the numbers. I'm blanking on the numbers, but it's an enormous amount of aid to Israel. I think right now we give about like $2 billion in aid a year to Israel. And yeah, I think it was $38 billion over 10 years. So that'd be about $3.8 billion per year by the math. And the point is, and I'm sure you've talked about this with Scott Horton and Kyle Anslin and Will Porter. Those are all my good friends, by the way. Those are my foreign policy expert friends. But you have $2 billion worth of nuclear arms and all these sniper rifles, and versus people throwing bottles and people, throwing or rolling a tire that's on fire. How could you call it a battle? It's really not. It's obviously one-sided, obviously. And you hear reports about Israel sniping down medical personnel, about them shooting people in the growing or targeting the growing. I guess the idea is if you shoot them in the growing, they'll go back and they'll die in their family's arms. And it's like, oh, I guess I won't try to jump the border this time. But again, the median age in Gaza, I believe, is about like 14 years old. It's really, really easy to radicalize kids. But when you're talking about adults, adults are set in their ways. That's why no matter what type of regime you've had, Lenin always said you need 20 years. Because 20 years is the amount of time you can inculcate ideas into a generation. You pretty much have to kill the adults off if you want to start a regime. You look at the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. They pretty much killed off the adults, and what was left was kids that they raised. I'm sure you guys have read about that.
Yeah, that whole situation during that act or whatever you want to call it. That way, like I think a month ago or so. It was, I don't know when it was, but it was pretty recent.
Are you talking about the Palestine thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and yeah, you just seen people. I guess someone had like a tennis racket or something, and I don't know. It was just like you were saying, it's one side because Israel obviously has a military. The military personnel is obviously they have the bulletproof vests and the armor basically that they have here.
They have the right equipment.
Right, and then you see the Palestinians and they're just regular clothed people, throwing rocks and.
It doesn't help that both sides claim that they're just defending themselves from the other. Israel just claims, well, the only reason we're sniping people is because they're throwing stuff at us, and the people in the Gaza Strip would say, the only reason we're throwing bottles is because we're getting sniped. How do you solve that? This is what both sides actually believe. That seems to be a problem.
Yeah. It definitely seems like both sides have some kind of, I don't know, they have issues for sure. Do you think, and I mean, especially with Donald Trump as president, I don't think it's going to happen, but do you think if America, the government, not the people, but the U.S. government was like, okay, you know what, we're gonna experiment and do something here. We're gonna cut your funding because we give you billions of dollars because you're, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I think Israel is like top 2 country in terms of how much money we give in terms of foreign aid. Or maybe number one.
A billion's a billion. I mean, if any of y'all have taken economics, you know that it's pretty much impossible for a single person to spend $1 billion in their life. I mean, obviously, if you buy like 100,000 Ferraris, maybe you'd be able to spend it. But just in general, to actually like live a normal life, not live in excess, and spend $1 billion, it's kind of hard to do. So yeah, they're propped up with billions of dollars with a B. That's a good question. I mean, I personally wanted Trump, not because I liked him, because I thought he'd be less of a wartime president than Hillary. That's why people like Walter Block had the Libertarians for Trump movement, because it's one or the other. I do think Hillary would have been worse to this day if she gotten elected, but as far as Trump being a peacetime president, he hasn't really lived up to that thus far. I mean, obviously what happened in Syria, that was very devastating. Even Alex Jones made a video the same day. It was just like I'm off the Trump train, guys. So
if you get Alex Jones off your train, it's
exactly. So I think everybody started to wake up that he's probably more or less just I don't even know if it's Trump. I don't really understand how things work behind the scenes in politics. It may be that Trump doesn't really have much of a say. Like he deals with like 100 issues a day, and like he talks to like his military people a few minutes a day, and they pretty much tell him what to do. It could be that, and he's just like, all right, well, I'm obviously just a businessman. I'll let you guys who are in the military make these decisions. It may be like that. I'm not sure. I think when it comes down to it, people want to have someone to blame. So Trump's always a scapegoat. Whether it's a North Korea peace deal, people are blaming Trump, saying like, I hope it fails just because it's Trump. So yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, I was going to say that, especially during the campaign, that's an obvious, a lot of things they were saying, in terms of foreign policy, hey, we're wasting money in the Middle East. Why are you over there? Your brother lied us into war, all this stuff. And then, I mean, if he does all these executive orders, okay, he does, just with the stroke of a pen, he could literally just go, okay, you know what? Bring the troops home. Okay, there you go. Executive order. Bring all the troops home from the Middle East. That's it. Done. If he has that power, he can use it. I mean, he's signing executive orders. Obviously, he makes a fucking media circus out of it. So I don't know what the problem.
I don't know if he has the constitutional authority to bring him home, but here's my point of view. If you have the constitutional authority to not go to Congress for a war like we did with Iraq, I would say go ahead and break the Constitution again to bring him home.
Well, yeah, I mean, the presidents, they've done that every single day. They do something that's unconstitutional that goes unnoticed or whatever, especially when Obama was president. Holy shit, almost everything he was doing, not almost everything, but a lot of what he was doing was just, I mean, come on.
Obama was like the first president where he just openly went against the Constitution. I mean, every president prior to that would always at least pretend like they protected they gave a shit about their oath to the Constitution. But Obama was just openly, I'm going to do what I want. States' rights are in the way. The states' rights are an obstacle to me. That's pretty much what Hitler said too, by the way. Hitler was an opponent of states' rights. So, I mean, anything that gets in the way of the federal government Leviathan, yeah, they're just going to overlook it. And they can. I mean, FDR proved very well that you can do anything you want to as long as you can try to show that there was these implied powers in the Constitution. I think FDR signed over 3,000 executive orders. I forget if it was like 3,100, 3,300, over 3,000. I mean, I think Woodrow Wilson was the second most, but no one even comes close to that. I think even Obama and Bush, maybe just like a few hundred, but over 3,000. Now, of course, FDR was president. I forget how many years it was. Well, he was in his fourth term, I believe.
Yeah, he died in his fourth term. I think it was like the first year of his fourth term.
Yeah, he was president like 9-10 years, something like that. Yeah.
And then I don't know if it was after, like right after, but I know a little after him is when they're like, okay, 2 terms, that's it.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't think they had that yet. And then after him, they're like, okay, 2 terms. Because I think Harry Truman was like, yeah, I only want to do 2 terms, that's it. Because you don't have that power. But
FDR is a weird guy. He has a really weird story. I'm sure most of you know he was in a wheelchair most of his life.
Oh, really? I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, if you see him in his speeches and stuff, he was always in a wheelchair for his presidency. I forget how long he had that condition, but there's a lot of weird stories about the guy, man. When he came into office, the guy that before him was reaching out to him saying, "Hey, I want to work with you." I think it was Hoover, saying, "Hey, I want to work with you. Let's work together." And FDR pretty much just ignored it and threw it in the trash. It's just kind of like an inside story. Another story about FDR. He always had a mistress. If you ever watch the movie, I think it's called Hyde Park on Hudson. And basically that just shows, they didn't explicitly say it in the movie, but it's still obvious in the movie that FDR had a mistress up until the end of his life. And imagine him sitting there on his deathbed and he had to escort his mistress out so he could bring in his wife so like they could do the publicity thing, take all the pictures saying he died with his wife. Because the mistress thing wasn't open, but it was kind of obvious to everybody. And even to FDR's wife, I guess it was kind of, oh, well, he's in a wheelchair. Just let him be happy, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that's what people would argue in defense of FDR. But the point is, this wasn't a very faithful man to his family. So it says a lot about a person, how faithful they are to their family, how faithful are they going to be to the Constitution and to the people they preside over. So,
yeah, could you imagine like today's world, like after Trump, the next president was like some double amputee who had to be in a wheelchair? That'd be kind of crazy.
Oh man, I just want to say what's up to Immersion News. That's Kyle Anslow, and what's up to Actual Anarchy. It's Daniel Elwin, good friends.
Yeah, and he also has the number FDR 3,728, Wilson 1,803.
Wow, it's 3,700. Wow, I forget numbers like that, but I knew it was wow. It's almost 4,000.
I don't know. I can only imagine Donald Trump signing an executive order every 2 seconds or something. All right, more money than me. Ha!
People will be freaking out.
Yeah. Okay. So so she said freaking out, right? Everything that Donald Trump does nowadays, people freak out. He breathes. I can't believe it. He breathed wrong or something. I don't know. And yeah, Trump 80. Trump's only done 80 so far. Oh man, you're crazy.
It's actually not that bad. Yeah, what we're just saying, they make it sound like he signs one every 2 seconds, but it's not so.
Well, he did that immigration thing or whatever. You know, that's like it was a big news story, and then the Supreme Court justice thing, and now nobody cares anymore about kids.
It was probably he signed a lot of them in a short period of time, but in general, I think he signed a lot there for a minute.
Yeah. So. What's your thoughts on Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court justice nominee?
I haven't done too much research on it. I've been doing so many side projects, so sometimes I never even get back to the mainstream news. But from what I can tell, Judge Napolitano's pretty worried about him. I think the Cato Institute came out in praise of him, so that was a red flag for me. What do you guys think, though? I just don't know much about him. Maybe we can discuss it.
Wait, the Cato Institute we're praising him?
Yeah.
Jeez, and they're a libertarian think tank, aren't they?
Well, Cato is kind of like a joke nowadays. I mean, the joke is obviously Murray Rothbard founded the Institute. He gave the Institute its name with other people, and then they just completely shut him out. It's like to this day, you have to dig in deep to find Murray Rothbard stuff because they try to shut him out. Because Cato's kind of mixed in with like this mainstream type of views where they'll kind of give into like kind of the leftist and rightist talking points, you know, just so they can have some more publicity. And obviously sites like Mises, they say what they mean, and they don't care if someone's like, oh, I don't like that article. They're not going to give into their views. So.
Yeah. Shoot, I don't remember what I was talking about now.
We're talking about the.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I do that a lot. We're talking about Kavanaugh.
Supreme Court justice, right?
The only thing I know is that he's really bad on the Fourth Amendment. Right?
I think that's the main reason why
he's good on the First Amendment and the Second Amendment.
Yeah, well, I think that's the main reason why Napolitano is worried about him is because he has a bad track record for the Fourth Amendment.
For like civil forfeiture or asset forfeiture, or are we talking about eminent domain? Are we talking about like break-in, not break-ins, home raid?
A collection or something. Yeah. He was like, like Kavanaugh's like, that's fine.
Yeah, he said that was okay. Like under the Fourth Amendment, that was like something.
Right, for like security. You know, for security reasons, it's totally fine to do that. You know, don't quote me on that, but I'm about 87% sure that's what he said.
That's what I've heard other people talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, like she was saying, the First and Second Amendment, he's fine. But
that's what the left is going off of, though. They're like, oh my God, he's the Second
Amendment radical. So. And then they think that he's gonna like get rid of Roe v. Wade. I mean, really?
That's not gonna happen. If it does, I'll be really, really surprised.
I think even people who are anti-abortion are just like, okay, I don't personally want to have an abortion, but I don't know. I mean, I'm talking about myself.
I mean, you're not gonna do abortion. Yeah. I think most people, even if they're against abortion, don't want to throw people in jail.
Well, I think even a lot of conservative Republicans realize nowadays that things like gay rights, things like drugs, if you're going to call yourself limited government, you can't be pro-government invading in these people's territories and doing things that obviously put them in a disadvantage. So I think conservative Republicans are starting to realize that. At least that I've seen. I mean, I think they're way more pro-drug than they were 5-10 years ago. What would you guys say? Aside from Jeff Sessions, so. I mean, Jeff Sessions is lost, but.
Oh yeah, obviously him. He's like, I don't know what you would call him. He's like Yosemite Sam almost. Crazy, you know. But he's by far the worst Trump appointment. By far, like no one even comes close.
I think even Trump said he would be in favor of federal decriminalization of weed at this point. For federal, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jeff Sessions like, what are you paying me for? I'm supposed to be that. Why are you saying that? Come on now. I'm Jeff Sessions. Oh yeah, Jeff Sessions. Yeah, I have a shirt that says Jeff Sessions is high as fuck. Well, AF, but
I don't know if you guys follow. I don't know if you guys follow like The Onion or Babylon Bee. There was an article on Babylon Bee, and it was like, inconsolable Jeff Sessions tries to commit suicide by smoking a joint.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, Jeff Sessions is terrible. I mean, I don't know what to say other than he's terrible. He's the worst appointment.
Yeah, I guess back to my original point. I think Republicans are starting to see that people are calling them out in the fact that they're pretty pro-government on a lot of issues, especially the military. When you get into foreign policy, there's I guess to them, they don't even view their military-industrial complex views as being pro-government or being big government. Just a big defense to them. So we need hundreds of bases around the world for defense. Obviously, it doesn't really make sense, but in their mind, they don't think of it as overreaching government. Just, everyone in my family signed up for the Marines when they were 17, and it's good for you. My grandmother used to tell me. And I'm so glad I never went into the military because I I repeat it again, but my grandmother used to tell me that you should go into the Marines. It's good for you. You know, they'll teach you some good things, and you'll come out of there and you'll feel good. Because my grandfather was a Marine. I actually never met my grandfather, but he was a Marine. He was a great guy. But that's kind of what their generation thinks about the military. It's just something you just sign up, go to a foreign country, you know, fight in a war, and it just makes you tougher.
Yeah, you might die, but who cares?
It's hilariously tragic because I'm sure you guys have I have a lot of veteran friends. A lot of them were never the same after they came back, man. Luckily, some of them can like smoke weed and it helps them, or they can do something that helps them. But a lot of them, they'll tell you they're not the same. They'll tell you like, man, going to the military, seeing my friends blow up, that will you don't recover from that. You know?
Yeah, because I can only imagine. You know, like you're saying, like seeing someone that you've been close to for a while. You know, you met someone in the military, and then you see them die terribly. You know, and because if I had something like that happen to me, all I would think about is whenever I see someone, like I would meet someone or I would see a person, I would instantly think just their head exploding, because that's what I saw. So all I would think is that. You know,
or if you had to kill someone but you didn't want to.
Yeah, you're basically forced to kill them because, well, they told me to. They gave me orders.
Or they were trying to kill you first, and you have to kill them. Have that image stuck in your head for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, some people, you know, especially Vietnam veterans or whatever, whenever they see an Asian, like,
yeah, why are they the worst? Why are they the most, like, if you ever had like a crazy uncle who, like, you know, hears fireworks and goes crazy, it's always a Vietnam War vet. Why? What was it about Vietnam that was so? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you guys know this. John McCain was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. I think it was like 6 years, 7 years, a long time. They tortured him. I mean, I guess in some sense it does make sense why he just wants perpetual war and why he's a little bit crazy. Because I think to this day he still walks with a limp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he also has that thing where he can't raise his arms that high.
Yeah.
It's like this, whatever. Yeah. But, you know, I don't like veterans who get captured, so.
What?
It's a Donald Trump reference.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
Remember when he said, oh, did he get, I think he froze. Oh, my
God, are we frozen? Are we frozen, or is he frozen?
No, I think he froze.
No, we might be frozen, too. You should ask the chat.
Uh-oh.
1 second.
Oh, I think he fell. Okay.
Okay. So but guys, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear us? I know every time this happens. I know. We're great over here. I don't even know.
We didn't do it.
I still can't believe we have so many. We have like actually decent. Oh.
No, what? No, we're
so
not.
Are you still able to see us? Like we're able to talk and all that? Okay.
Okay. He is gone. You were just stuttering.
Okay. So yeah. Anyway. Okay. So you can hear us, right? So what were we talking about?
I don't know. You just made a bad joke and then went to shit.
I hope people heard my joke about John McCain, because that was great. Because it was a Trump reference. He said it too. I'll wait till he gets back, and then we'll just sit here quietly.
You know what's funny? His microphone or something is on, but he's not on.
It's weird. He said he's man, it's crazy. My computer restarted. Oh my god.
Oh, I know. Damn capitalism.
Yeah, I know, right? It's
capitalism's fault. Why is this light so bright? You know what? Let me just.
I think I did that. I think I accidentally made it too bright.
Is that better?
That's good.
Oh, I don't look like someone on Instagram anymore. That's good.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hope I never had that experience of going to war, because that would suck. That's one of the things with.
Oh, you don't want to be drafted? Male privilege?
Oh, hell no. I don't want to be drafted. Fuck that. I mean, you know, like South Korea. I can't remember other countries, but I know South Korea for sure. You have that mandatory military service, you know?
Yeah, you should be glad you don't have dual citizenship, because then you'd be drafted for the Korean military.
That's why I see like all those, you know, K-pop bands, with the guys where they're like, oh, I have to leave for a year because I have to have.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we got to go to the military for a year and then come back and do
Which is weird because if you know South Korea has their own army, why are we over there? Why can't they defend their own country?
I don't know.
Get a hard line for your internet, says Circle. I mean, you get a hard line.
A hard line for my internet for my little MacBook computer.
Hey, if you want to donate, if you want to go on our Patreon,
You know what? I wonder if we can use that.
maybe, and you know, and donate money so we can actually get better equipment and actually look better. Then by all means, you know, donate at least $1. That'd be great because we will use that money purely to make this, thank you, Circle, to make this nice and beautiful instead of using Google Hangout. We can actually
You know,
use.
I'm sure now that he said that, it's probably has something to do like the internet. It would be better if we had
Like actually had like a connection.
Yeah, but I don't know where we plug it in because my computer is so. Like there's literally only one plug-in on the computer.
Yeah. For better internet, yeah, I know, right? But yeah, we have some good perks over there. We have, you know, $1. You can see our live stream schedule before anybody else. You can see who we're going to be live streaming for up to a month. So we have
Some good people. In that
we have all of July ready. We're getting some people for August.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll do probably some repeat guests if we can't get any new ones. But and then for $3, we might as well just talk about our Patreon.
You can do that if you want.
A $3 one. We do a series called What's Happening, where we basically just talk about the news of the week, whatever, and some other random stuff that we want to talk about. And then for $3, we'll do just Patreon episodes, so you'll get those.
Yeah, we're starting that this week.
Yeah, we're doing episode 4, and then next one's going to be specifically for Patreon.
Yep.
So if you want to see that, see all the crazy hijinks over there, $3, because it's Kevin Brennan's the way he did it, and it's brilliant. So we're
You mean lazy?
Well, I mean it's working for him, so might as well try it.
Yeah, at least you're not as vulgar as him.
Yeah, that's true.
He's crazy.
Anyway, so yeah, there's that. You get extra episodes of What's Happening. Stephen and Clyde will be back as soon as possible. And then we have $10, basically just an extra video, whatever we want to put up there. Extra video or two, kind of just depends. We haven't put any extra videos. We do have some extra videos there that are at the $10. We haven't put any lately.
Yeah, we need to film one, but oh yeah, I wonder if I don't know.
No.
I'll say it now. Oh, but there is one thing I'll say now. I don't know why or how this happened, and I don't even know if it's a good thing or not, but I got invited to Kilroy next year because I'm a libertarian. They don't have enough libertarians. So we might be speaking at Kilroy next year. I don't know how I'm going to speak at Kilroy, but
I'll be the staff for sure.
I'll be like, here.
I'll say it my own way.
Yeah.
She says, "Fuck all y'all. You suck. Don't violate the nap." There you go. Perfect. So yeah, we've been invited to Kilroy. Are you able to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we got invited.
I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, I know it's true.
Invited.
That's true. We did get invited. I was crazy. I said when you got the invitation, you're like.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the heck? How am I even on the radar? I'm just some random person.
I don't know. I guess they see the big names retweeting you or replying. Who is this person? Oh, I'll say some interesting stuff. We'll invite her. We don't have any libertarians, whatever their definition of libertarianism is.
Learn sign language. I hope he gets his internet back up, or not internet, his computer back up.
I figured something's happening because he wasn't saying anything. I was like,
at least this time it's not our fault. It's on the record that it's not our fault.
Yeah, it's not our fault. But yeah, hopefully Kilroy next year would be better planned than last year.
Yeah, because last year seemed like a disaster.
Well, this time we're going to be actually a part of it, so hopefully nothing
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go there.
It's in Arizona, and we want to visit Arizona anyway.
Yeah. So that would be pretty cool. But then we also have let's go back to the Patreon.
Oh.
$15. That's the highest one, and I don't remember what it was now.
$15.
Yeah.
I'll check.
Can't remember. Oh, you can choose a topic that we
choose.
can talk about for what's happening,
Or any of our live streams.
yeah, if you want to ask any questions, we'll ask them
like
for
tell
you.
us beforehand, and then we will
Yeah,
talk
any
about
topics you want us to talk about on the live stream, and also if you want us to do a video idea, we'll do our best because we're limited, on equipment and time,
It's this computer. I never thought that I'd do YouTube on this computer.
Yeah.
So I basically got a computer where I could blog on, and now I'm not blogging. So
It's weird though because we always have problems on it, but lately it's just been ridiculous. It's storming out too, so I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but really sure. This is great. It's great entertainment for all watching us sit here.
yeah, sorry guys. I don't know. Should we reschedule this for a different time?
Let me see if he's
It's been almost 10 minutes. He was in the chat before, probably from his phone.
Yeah. There weren't any problems when you were on. I don't believe so. What happened to the $100 tier? Well, if one goes $100, that option's still there. It's just not there in public. People who know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
That sounded hard.
So Steven says that it's going to take about 10 minutes. That's crazy. The computer just decided to update for no reason. Huh.
Well, at least we don't have a. I guess that's one good thing about having a Mac. It won't do that.
They give you the little update? No.
Yeah, because I use Windows for work, and it just randomly updates like that.
Yeah.
It'll just be like, yeah, you're working on something.
Do you think
too bad?
Just turn on your iPad connection for now while the update happens, bruh. I agree. FPI updates. I know, right? We're talking too much about Trump and Jeff Sessions. They didn't like
They
that.
were like, well, fuck them.
They didn't like that, so it's gonna be weird. Like half the videos gonna be us just sitting here.
I wish we had something interesting to say. I'm not nearly as interesting as I am on Twitter. Sorry.
And I know on Twitter you're ridiculous, and
I know.
it's funny because on Twitter I'm quiet and you're not, and
then when you're on video,
I'm like the one that talks a lot, unless it's like someone that like you and whoever the guest is has more.
Well, I guess I'll tell people, the 3 people who are watching. I guess the people who replay this, if they make it this far. Next week we're talking to Red Pill Chick on Twitter, so that will be a really trad conversation.
Yeah.
And who are we talking to on Thursday?
Next Thursday. Oh, Rams Paul. Talking to Rams Paul.
I forgot that we were talking to him.
We're basically gonna give. Oh, you joined $1? We'll tell you the live stream schedule anyway.
No, they don't. No. Don't tell anyone else. They have the rest of it.
Okay, but yeah, next week, Red Pill Chick and Rams Paul. So it's gonna be an interesting week.
Yep.
And then yeah. So after that, that's it.
Okay.
But we were supposed to have someone on Tuesday, but we're gonna have to reschedule. Do they have a time for that yet or no?
He said in August.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a really interesting person who is supposed to talk to us.
Can't wait. It's gonna be
on
funny.
Tuesday, but he had to reschedule because his mic doesn't work.
It's always technical issues, man. Some always technical. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that or he hates it.
Yeah, that too. He probably hates us.
No, he retweets stuff of mine. He doesn't hate me. Right?
Whenever he retweets something, like if he likes it, it's not that much. It gets up there, but it's not too bad. When he retweets it, ooh. everything goes up. You get
I know,
like 25 followers.
I know I have to thank him because he's probably responsible for like 1/5 of my followers.
Oh, you want a Misha cam? You want a Misha cam?
A Misha cam. I don't know. Can I move? I can't move the webcam, can I?
I mean, you can disconnect it and
I can disconnect
don't show like the rest of the house is like covered and show her.
How?
Cover it. There you go. Oh my God, you're showing the kitchen.
I don't know how to do this.
See, there she is right there.
It's too dark. You know what? Never mind.
Now I know what our house looks like. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, now they're gonna come and kill us because they know what our kitchen looks like.
Yeah, I know, right?
Why not talk about what happened with Barbara's video? Oh, I saw, or he's talking, or someone in the chat, Madness is talking about Barbara's video got removed. What was it, like Ode to David Hogg? It got removed so fast I didn't get to see it. So I don't.
Was she making fun of him? I'm guessing that's what she was doing.
No, she was making fun of him, and she posted it on Facebook and YouTube, and it got removed in both places.
That's crazy. Gaming.
Hey, my kitchen is fine, okay? We got a lot of stuff on the table because we used the island as a table right now.
Yeah, we just ate.
Yeah. Clean up later. I mean, unless you want to be a maid.
Oh, it's on BitChute.
Oh, okay. People keep telling us to get BitChute. Maybe we should get BitChute.
Yeah, BitChute, Steam it.
You made us Steam it.
You did?
You did.
I did? I don't remember.
Say something intellectual and very great that people can appreciate.
Well, I was actually thinking about this. For some reason, it was interesting because I was listening to You're Welcome with Michael Mouse, and he had Lauren Southern on. And I can't remember exactly what was said, but it was interesting because you have, like, say for example, you have, like, you know, obviously multiculturalism is, I mean, that'd be a really hard thing to have intersect, you know, like, say like your culture is completely different from my culture. If we lived together, we'd probably butt heads all the time, you know, like, hey, I don't
well, that's why the culture that moves into the other country has to assimilate with that culture to some degree.
Right.
That's how it works.
But I was also thinking, well, what about political ideologies? You know, say for example, you know, a communist and a libertarian are together. That'll cause some conflict because they don't agree on hardly anything, if, you know. So in terms of like a society or even a country, you know, like, so what exactly, like, so for example, in a libertarian society, libertarians would want libertarians to live amongst each other, right? And then,
well, they would want people to, I mean, it's kind of weird, but like, maybe I'm thinking of ANCAP type of libertarian, but they want people to live peacefully within the groups that they voluntarily choose to. So if communists want to go in their own area, they can go do their own thing and have their own little government or whatever, but they can't infringe on other people's rights.
but see, that's what I was thinking of. It's like, okay, so especially for like nowadays, you know, like the Antifa, whatever, like the fascists and the communists and the socialists and all that. Don't you think they would do that anyway? So that's what I'm saying.
Well, that's why a lot of conservatives argue like, oh, but we still need a military because we got to defend the country.
Right.
Because regular citizens are not going to band together and defend the country. Yeah,
especially if, you know, people have different views on things.
Well, that's why I don't really know where I am politically. I just know individual things that I believe.
Right.
I can't say I'm in support of the military doing, like, I don't know, projects over in the Middle East, because I still don't believe that if we weren't in the Middle East, people wouldn't come here and attack us. You know, it wouldn't be like a whole army of people coming over here to attack us. But I do believe in defending borders and everything.
Right.
Which would make me basically like a Nazi or something.
Yeah, right.
According to some people.
Which is also funny too, because Bernie Sanders in an interview said that open borders. No, that's a Koch brothers thing.
Well, it's kind of true, right? Because if you have open borders and you got people who are willing to work for nothing, taking jobs of people who live here.
Yeah, so, and and Bernie Sanders saying that is kind of like
he changed his stance completely after he became the nominee.
Well, I think nowadays, especially since Trump's in, but I think deep down, I think he's closed borders. Because, I think he understands that you can't have open borders and a welfare state. You can't have both. You have to have one or the other.
You think he actually understands that?
I don't know. I don't know what he understands. I just think it's.
I think he's just concerned about people taking jobs.
Well, I think he's also concerned about people liking him or not. I mean, you saw how he.
Well, yeah, now, but I'm talking about his stance before on it.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a politician. He's inconsistent on something. That's why I can't take him seriously. I can't take a lot of politicians seriously because they're either party flickers or they a Republican said that, I'm a Republican, so I gotta go with that. It's like, come on, man, at least have some fucking balls or something. That's why Thomas Massey and Justin Amash and Rand Paul, to an extent, are they're the good ones.
You mean they're more truthful?
Yeah, that's why I put him in quotes of the good ones. I would probably put Thomas Massey as he's definitely one of the better ones because I honestly don't like Rand Paul when he's talking about the debates are like a clear example of why a lot of libertarians or the ANCAPs, whatever, the Ron Paulians of the world were very disappointed in his presidential campaign. But that's completely beside the point. The point is that. Sorry, man. It's okay. We're having a lovely conversation, talking to ourselves. Yeah, this whole time we thought you were there still.
No, it would have been really awkward if it was just you talking.
That's true. I do that all the time, so
Oh yeah, I forgot he talks to himself.
I talk to myself. Yeah. But so yeah, it's gonna be funny. People rewatch this and they're gonna man, that's a big chunk of stuff missing.
It was like more than an update. I don't know, updated Windows 10 or something. Where were we? I forget.
I don't know, but your mic sounds like you're like underwater or something.
My mic sounds underwater? Okay. My mic sounds underwater? Okay. Let me fix it.
That's why sometimes like computers when they're like, hey, you want to.
I know, we're trying to learn how to use OBS.
That sounds better.
That's better.
No, I can't hear you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to rejoin.
Okay.
You can't hear us.
Oh, man. I feel like we need to have another one.
We should have another one with him. You should invite him on your birthday show.
Oh, yeah, we can do that. I'll do that. I'll have to.
Hold on 1 second.
I think he'd like that.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Test. 1, 2, 3.
Testing. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. I hear an echo.
Uh-oh. That's not good. Is it bad?
It's all good.
Really bad?
It's all good.
It's funny though, because I can't even hear the echo. But anyway. But yeah, so like we were just talking before, like when you got off the second time, to kind of make up for all this hoopla and all the technical problems that we're all having. Like, because I'm having a birthday stream on my birthday, which is the 31st this month, and I'm going to invite you to kind of make up for it. There's going to be some good people on. There's going to be
yeah, that sounds good. I can definitely go another 20-30 minutes if you guys can, but that sounds good.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to let people know who, but I guess we'll do it later. We'll do it another time. Some people that I'm sure you'll love to hang out with. Anyway, so
some people will all be talking over each other.
Yeah, basically. But anyway, who? It won't be as bad as yours. But anyway.
Yeah.
So do you remember exactly what we were talking about before? Oh, I remember. I said we're talking about John McCain. We were talking about how he was captured and he was a prisoner for a while. Well, I said that Well, speaking of John McCain, I like the veterans who aren't captured. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you really care about the troops, wouldn't you want them to come home and not die, not have severe PTSD? Which, I mean, PTSD is not just for soldiers. Obviously, it's just most prevalent among soldiers, but they have it the worst. They have it the worst. I mean, obviously, we just had July 4th, and there's a lot of people that put up signs saying, "Veteran lives here. Be courteous to the fireworks." And obviously, how are you going to do that on July 4th? So just imagine like hearing a sparkler or hearing a crackler or whatever, and you just it's like a Vietnam flashback. I guess we were talking about why is Vietnam so traumatic for people versus all the other wars.
Well, I think I don't know. I'm sure it has part of it, but I think it's because the enemy. There was really like a clear cut. Okay, that's the enemy. I can see the enemy over there. Because like with World War II, they're all wearing uniforms and all that. But with Vietnam, it was just, oh, this person coming up here. They look friendly, but they could also be the enemy. I have no idea because they're not wearing a uniform. There was a lot of that like guerrilla warfare, basically, kind of like how it is now over with the Iraq War 4000, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention, we were talking about the SCOTUS pick earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching this video by Campus Reform. They do a lot of really cool videos where they go on campuses and they ask the college kids questions about anything, and they don't know anything. So they were asking what do you think about Trump's SCOTUS pick? And it was like a few days before the actual election was held or the decision was made. So, I mean, obviously they were just saying, oh, it's a terrible pick, and hasn't even been picked yet.
So uninformed, man.
Well, that's like they made signs saying like "stop."
Oh
whatever.
yeah, they had like signs pre-made for each one.
And someone sent out a tweet saying "stop XXX" because they didn't.
Oh yeah, they tweeted us something. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
They don't even care who it is. They're just like Trump and nominated whoever it is. It's gonna be bad.
It's a lot of preemptive. We gotta get ready. We're gonna say something. That's why. Okay, so I know it's kind of like a out of nowhere question. I'm sure you've never heard it before, but do you think Trump's going to win re-election?
Well, that's a really good question. I wonder who he's going to run against. I think Bernie's going to try to run again, but is the DNC going to do the exact same thing they did last time and prop up somebody like Hillary again? It's a very good chance Hillary's going to run. I wonder if Chelsea Clinton will run. I wonder if 2020 will be, because at some point Chelsea Clinton's going to be the next Clinton to run. Everybody's known that for a long time. Will it be soon or later? It's hard to say.
Well, Hillary Clinton has been hinting at, there's all these clues that she's going to run again. And I'm like, oh, please, for the love of Christ, please, yes, please run again so you can get embarrassed again.
I think if Bernie Sanders runs against Trump, I think Bernie will clearly win. I think if Hillary wins, I think Trump might actually win again.
So you think that if it was Bernie against Trump, you think Bernie would actually win? Oh
yeah, no doubt. A lot of people are salty about what happened, even people who are not Bernie supporters. You can see that obviously the DNC sabotaged his campaign in the end. That obviously happened, and everyone saw that. And this kind of happened with Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson's not the brightest guy in the world, but he was blocked. He was obviously blocked out of the debates because they knew if another libertarian voice came in, that's going to steal votes away. That's pretty much what it came down to. So there's all types of things that happen behind the scenes. I'm not the biggest believer that you can actually get involved in politics and actually change the world. I'm not too big of a believer in that. I think the best you can do is just talk to a lot of people and convert a lot of people. But most people that go into politics truly believe that, if I was just in charge, everything would be better because I have all these ideas. And I think you get in power and you realize, oh, okay, I'm not pulling as many strings as I thought I was. And I mentioned this earlier. Trump obviously does a lot of good and bad things, but it's hard to say, is he pulling the strings in a lot of the things he's getting the blame for? Even Syria, was it truly Trump's decision? Was that really his last say, or were people in his administration or people that were around him telling him what to do? And he was just like, all right, I want to go to bed now. It's late at night. I'm just going to go ahead and say yes so we don't have to stay up another 3 hours. I wonder things like that because that is worthy to ask.
Yeah, he seems like someone that would be like that.
Yeah, he
like
does.
you were saying. Yeah,
Well, stop pestering me. Just do it.
yeah, just go ahead and do it. I don't know. I mean, he has people around him that are they're not the best people, especially with our group of,
I think people know deep down that the president doesn't do as much as they think he does, but people want like one single person to blame or one entity to blame. That's just kind of how people are. They want someone to blame, right?
Yeah.
Having to hold people accountable, it's a lot more people than just one entity. So.
Yeah, and that's basically what the president is basically just a face to everything that's going on. So, of course, Donald Trump's the president, so he's going to get most of the blame. But I think even with the way the mainstream media is handling it and how they're, I guess, CNN and MSNBC are definitely more negative. I mean, Fox News, they're praising him every single day, it seems like. Whatever he does, it's amazing. His approval ratings, I mean, I know it's polls, so I guess take it with a grain of salt, but his poll numbers are relatively around, any other president. So with all the negative press out there, he's not doing too bad in terms of approval. I mean, he really isn't when it comes to.
The media will make it look like it's a lot worse than it is. And people ask me, do you like Trump? All I can say to that is I judge it by issue. On some issues, he's really good. Some issues, he's clearly horrible. When it comes to tariffs, he's terrible. It's almost like he doesn't understand economics when he gets on tariffs. He clearly promotes protectionist policies. I was listening to this one interview he was doing. I forget the guy's name, but he was a steel guy. He ran a big steel company, a failing steel company. And basically he wanted President Trump to enact tariffs so his failing steel business can be propped up again. Because he wasn't surviving in the steel market. I mean, steel just alone, I think China produces, I think it's like 10 times more steel than we do, just multiple times more. So there's no real reason why we should like try to bring steel back to the country. It doesn't really make sense. Some things are better done overseas. People don't think about any of that. So that's just one issue in particular. I mean, some issues is good, some issues is clearly bad.
Yeah, but I mean, him just being there, it's I don't know. It's interesting because tariffs are bad. It's basically just more money out of the American people's pocket. Especially businesses. I mean, I don't know how any business, when they see him talking about, we're going to tariff this, whatever industry, or I don't know how anyone looks at that and goes, that's a good thing. I don't know how anyone. Well,
it does make sense if you're involved in an industry you want to be propped up. So, for example, let's say in the UK shipped, they can mail us sweaters for $3 a sweater, but to produce them in the US, it takes $5 to produce it. Well, basically, what people in the sweater industry in the US would say, hey, we can't compete with $3 a sweater. Put a $2 or $3 tariff on them, so they're obviously not going to want to export at a loss. So that's basically the idea, is that you put an import tax on it, and then you realize, we shouldn't export this. That's literally what you think about it like that. It obviously doesn't make any sense. You're taking away people's options to buy sweaters at $3, making everything more expensive. And sure, you could prop up a sweater company in the U.S., but what happens when another company comes along and is able to produce sweaters for $1 now? So even your $2 tariff isn't doing anything. You can't compete with the $2 tariff. So you need a $4 tariff on a $1 sweater. So obviously it's a recipe for disaster. And people who know economics, I almost think that Trump has to know this. Like you have to know that he must actually a lot of it has to do with what they say about China and how China steals ideas. That even if tariffs are bad, we need to do this because China just steals all our ideas, and they send us all these cheap goods if we can't produce anything here. There's like this fetish with getting away from producing stuff overseas. But in reality, what would our lives look like if we weren't able to import stuff from overseas? It'd be pretty horrible. I don't know yeah, go ahead.
Do you think he's saying that and like bluffing? Because he seems like he does it a lot. He seems like he bluffs a lot. Like, hey, I'm going to do this. I mean, like with North Korea, that was a big bluff. And as of right now, it looks kind of looks to be working.
Yeah.
But with, like, economic, I'm going to put this tariff on these Chinese goods if you don't do what I say. And then China's like, okay.
Exactly. I think that actually did happen. There was some pushback right after Trump enacted the tariffs. China was saying, okay, we'll cut back on our import tariffs, because basically the idea is right now is that China has tariffs on goods they import into them. So the idea is that, okay, we can just counterbalance these tariffs, and they eventually will take off their tariffs. And maybe there was some actual pushback to that. I mean, it's a good question. Is Trump fully conscious of what he's doing, but just playing 4D chess? And I would say in many things, yeah, he's clearly playing 4D chess. Here's a good example: North Korea. You had people like Ben Shapiro who were saying things like, Kim Jong-un is this horrible person. Obviously he is, but he didn't understand why Trump in front of the cameras was playing nice with him. And Michael Malice talks about this a lot. He gives one example of this woman who was on TV, this North Korean woman, and she was asked, like, what do you think about the dear leader? And she's like, oh, praise the dear leader, obviously. And Michael Malice's point is, what do you expect her to say? She's on TV. You're a hostage if you live in North Korea. So the reason we're being friendly with North Korea on camera is because it has to be like that. It has to be like that. I mean, you think you're going to go do a peace summit and talk to Kim Jong-un and just say, hey, you're a psycho murderer. You're really fat. You probably eat a lot of donuts, but will you sign this peace treaty? A lot of it's for show. And some people just seem totally blindsided by all this. They just don't understand any of that.
Yeah, what does Ben Shapiro think that Trump's going to do? Punch him in the face? Hey, how dare you beat all these people up? Give some Americans back. It's like, come on, man. That's not real life.
Maybe part of it is Ben Shapiro thinks that there's no point in trying to whip up a peace treaty with someone like Kim Jong-un. It's never going to happen. The only way you can get rid of North Korea is just to nuke them, which is terrible. I mean, North Korea has 25 million people. That's a lot of people. That's a few New York cities. It's like 3 New York cities worth of people.
There's examples of American government people. I mean, FDR and Stalin, and I mean, Nixon and Mao. I mean, come on. Just look at the hit. I mean, geez, man. It's like he doesn't even look 30 years. Like, come on, man. Nixon and Mao were literally, sitting at having dinner, having a nice, warm engagement or whatever. And Mao's like the worst person ever. So it's like, come on, man. But yeah, you're right though. Someone was talking about too that I can't believe they put the American flag and the North Korean flag in the same level, like standing up straight behind them. How dare they? Come on, don't you know how bad North Korea is? And it's like, that's how it always goes. It doesn't matter what country it is.
Like you don't think you're gonna pretend to respect somebody who's a dictator? Like they have 120,000 plus people just suffering in these concentration camps. These concentration camps, which you can see on Google Maps. Obviously, a lot of it was for show, and I don't understand people like Ben Shapiro who are, it seems like he's trying to trash Trump just because he's succeeding. Because that's basically the joke is they were actually leftists saying that I hope I hope Trump fails in the North Korea peace deal because he's Trump. I just want him to fail because he's Trump. So you see a lot of that. What do you say to that? That doesn't even make any sense. Obviously, you're not even judging this rationally.
Yeah, that was on that Michelle Wolf show.
Mm-hmm.
And you know who the person was that was sitting next to her? Neil Brennan, Kevin Brennan's brother.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway, that's a complete off topic. But, yeah, I remember like they're trying to make something worse than it is. Like, okay, obviously, any rational person is going to go, yeah, Kim Jong-un is a terrible, evil dictator. Whatever. I mean, Michael Malice says that. I mean, anyone who looks at him, it goes, yeah, that's terrible. They're literally anyone who lives there is basically a prisoner, as Mal said. But how else are we going to achieve peace? What, we're just going to go out there guns blazing? You're going to make things worse if you do that. Because if anything, that's going to make the North Koreans go, see, we told you Americans are fucking evil. Yeah. Because that's what we do all the time. Yeah, all this propaganda or whatever, But I don't know. I think. But it's like you're saying, it depends on the issue too, because I really want North Korea and South Korea to have peace, because I guess I'm half Korean, so I guess I have something something.
I think the people want that too. I don't think North Koreans. obviously they're inculcated with a lot of BS and lies and stuff like that, but they're generally not against their own people. They definitely hate the Chinese. They call the Japanese scoundrels. They call American scoundrels. But this stuff has been they've been brainwashed to believe this essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you can also kind of say that it's with any country. Every country has their own propaganda, and theirs is like to the nth degree or whatever. But regardless of all that, however you view the country and their leader, diplomacy is the way to do it. Because if you go to war, you're going to make things worse, and you're probably going to set back, you know, any chance of peace at least 100, 200, 300 years or whatever. You know, so if Donald Trump, if he can legit, even if he has 1% to do with it, even if it's all President Moon and President Kim or whatever, even if Trump has like 1% to do with it, well then success. I'll give the man credit for that, because he was there, he helped it, you know, he helped out. He was saying, hey, President Moon, if there's any help I can give you, I'll do whatever I can to make this happen, because I do honestly believe he wants it to happen. You know, now I don't know about, you know, with the Middle East, I don't know, it's a completely different story. Yeah. Because with the whole Israel thing, going back to that sort of.
Well, another thing Michael Malice talks about is that if we do, let's just say we nuked North Korea tomorrow,
right?
Whoever we couldn't nuke, they know that when it's like the last days for them, they're just gonna execute everybody. They're gonna execute absolutely as many people as they can. All the people in the concentration camps are gonna be ordered to be killed. Another thing, obviously they don't have missiles that could. They say they have missiles that could reach the middle of the U.S., whatever, but they can most likely reach Seoul if they have any missiles. So they could blow up South Korea on the way out. So there's a lot of things to think about. I think, yeah, like you're saying, diplomacy is the only good route here. Because the other route's just going to be millions and millions and millions of people dying. And North Korea is only one humanitarian crisis around the world. The crisis in Yemen right now, it's almost hard to believe. I don't know if y'all have had anybody on recently talking about that.
What was that again?
About Yemen.
Yemen. Yeah, Yemen.
We haven't had anyone on talking about it other than Scott Horton a little bit.
We've had Scott Horton. We talked to Will Porter. We've had him on. I don't know specifically about Yemen, but I'm pretty sure Yemen was mentioned.
Yeah, you should have Kyle Anzalone on. Will Porter and Scott Horton are great, but I think Kyle Anzalone, he knows a lot about Yemen, and they're facing one of the worst food crises there ever. The amount of people that could die over the next few years, it's just in the tens of millions.
Yeah, we've had him on actually. We had him on recently, actually, and yeah.
Talk about Yemen?
I don't know if we talked about Yemen. I think it was talking about North Korea because that was like the big topic at the time. But yeah, you're right though. What's going on with Yemen and the Saudi? It's a U.S. backed Saudi Arabia attack basically on Yemen. You know, so yeah, the U.S. government has a lot to do with what's going on over there. And give credit to Chris Murphy and Rand Paul, Mike Lee. I don't know, actually not Rand Paul. Chris Murphy, Mike Lee, some other senators who were trying. They were trying to get a vote to have something, you know, at least have a vote on it, but it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I guess it's one thing if you wanted to argue that we should give them foreign aid, but I think one thing we could do to help them is stop funding the people that are making their lives a living hell. Stop funding the people that are essentially cutting them off from food, cutting them off from hospital supplies. Kyle Anzalone talks about this a lot, that you have these insane conditions where they make it impossible for you to get to a hospital. So imagine like you fall and break your leg. The nearest hospital is like hours and hours away. You're probably going to die. That's pretty much the reality of it over there. Yeah, I think Yemen has like 27 million people, so almost the size of North Korea. And these people, you can just look at the pictures that come out lately. Just people absolutely skin and bone, little kids. As bad as it gets. Bad as it gets.
Yeah, and they have curable diseases.
Yeah.
You know, but they just like, you know,
yeah, that is true.
But they just don't have the resources to cure them. And yeah, they're just going to die miserable deaths. It's terrible. But
yeah, Africa's a crazy country in general because it's a big. there's like 21 out of 54 countries in Africa are ruled by dictatorships. So you could argue that, would Africa be better if they just had a free market there? Well, kind of hard to have a free market when in 21 of the countries there, they force the people to work and they seize all the goods they produce and they seize all the resources. I mean, it's hard to have a market economy under that. I don't know what the answer is for Africa and places like the Middle East, because a lot of it is culturally based. A lot of them don't want to advance technologically. They just don't, and they have the right to not do that. But like we're talking about, they're dying of diseases that we could probably cure in the U.S. You could probably go to the giant food and get some medicine and cure your cold or whatever it is. They're going to die from that.
Well, if you like free markets, in Africa, why don't you just move to Somalia?
Oh my God.
The funny part about that is someone was on Tom Woods talking about that. And when you look at Somalia before and after their government collapsed, they're actually doing better now after their government collapsed, in a state of anarchy, as we call it, because obviously that's the joke used against libertarians. Oh, you don't like regulations or a government, just go to Somalia. Well, if you actually look at Somalia before and after, you actually ask an intellectual question about it. What do you know? What do you know?
Yeah, that anytime Somalia comes on, it's like the roads thing. Who's gonna do the road? But there's a lot of chaos happening, and I think that's why a lot of people are joining at least from what I'm seeing, like Tom Woods and Dave Smith and Jason Stapleton and Mance Raider, they joined the Libertarian Party because they feel, well, obviously the Republicans and Democrats don't represent me.
Well, they're like, oh, we have to be like real libertarians have to overtake the Libertarian Party. That sounds ridiculous.
I think for a long time people realized that even if there was a libertarian wing of the Libertarian Party, who was it? It wasn't Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. That's not it. But someone like Tom Woods joins the LP. Yeah, actually, we actually do have a libertarian or two now in the party now. And now we're having Dave Smith and all these people join, so it's great.
That's another knock-on reason, too, is that they went hard for Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, which is fine, and they're libertarians, I guess, that's fine. But Bill Weld, I mean, you're going to try and put him as a presidential candidate. Really? Bill Weld, who's probably the least libertarian person ever in the Libertarian Party.
He's very anti-libertarian in some ways. When it comes to the Federal Reserve, he was on Glenn Beck once and he was asked about hey, would you audit the Fed or would you get rid of the Fed? And his answer was quite literally, I think Gary would get rid of the Fed, but I don't really. He basically, his response basically just said I don't know much about it. Now, I wish I could believe that I could work on Bill Weld. If I just sent Bill Weld a book, he'd read this oh my God, this is what Gary was talking about with the Federal Reserve. I think that guy has no intellectual interest at all because he's an old guy. He's been in politics 30 plus years. I don't personally buy it that someone can be in politics that long and all of a sudden they just get red pilled in the last 2 years. I just don't buy it. He's said things he thinks bump stocks or basically turn a gun into a AK-47. By the way, bump stocks make rifles really inaccurate. Everybody that knows anything about rifles knows that. That's why when they use bump stocks in these mass shootings, they don't hit that many people. It's very inaccurate. So he said things like that. He said things like pistols are as much of a problem as rifles.
Oh my God!
By the way, are you guys gun advocates? Do you guys own or shoot guns or know much about them?
He knows more than I do.
Well, I wouldn't say I know a lot, but I'm not a retard to know that bump stocks make guns more accurate. I mean, come on, really? Yeah,
I mean, it's just a cosmetic piece. So he said things that it's almost worse. He's not even saying things like I love the Federal Reserve, I hate guns. He's saying things that are just as if he didn't know anything about either. As if he just didn't know what the Federal Reserve was. I'm aware some libertarians want to audit the Fed, get rid of the Fed, but it's just, not really my angle, not really my take. What? I do want to have an honest conversation with Bill Weld. I should have done it when I was at the LP convention, but I think tension was so high there. I think I would have trolled him, if anything. I wouldn't have been able to have the nice, decent conversation, but I do want to have it because here's the thing. I have a lot of friends that kind of like Bill Weld, and they think that he's gotten better on a lot of issues, that he wouldn't support any gun control restrictions, that he would. They say he's just a better libertarian in general. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So I'd like to have that conversation with him, but they're going to end up seeing that, okay, he probably does want a lot of gun restrictions. I mean, if you wanted gun restrictions 2 years ago, and if you thought pistols were as much of a problem as rifles, what did someone say to you in the past 2 years that changed your mind? Because if you believe that first part, you're obviously not a research guy, to say the least. And by the way, I think like shotguns and rifles, those deaths combined are like half the deaths of what knives kill each year, just like on average.
I guess we'll just have to ban knives.
Well,
I used that point in a lecture once, because I was in a presentational speaking class last semester, and someone presented on guns, and I asked them, like, what do you think about the fact that 65% plus of gun deaths are suicides? There were a bunch of knives on the table because everyone brought in food for the last day of class, and I was just like, those knives over there statistically are twice as dangerous as the guns you're ranting against, the guns that you don't know anything about. And it's not like you find people that are for gun control that know anything about guns. It's always the same thing. They've always been scared of guns. They're proud that they grew up in a household without guns. They're basically proud of their ignorance. Like, I don't know any guns, so I'm a better person. That's basically how they make it sound.
Well, I mean, I'm more afraid of knives. Every time I see a knife, I say it's gonna
Every
fly
time I
out.
hold the knife.
Yeah, I think it's gonna.
What about
fly out.
flamethrowers, though?
Oh, flamethrowers! Oh man.
How are you going to clean off your driveway?
I wonder if Bill Weld wants to do like some flamethrower control. Like flames can only go 3 inches ahead of the nozzle. What? Well, it's not flamethrower.
He'd have to consult with Hillary first. He'll get back to us.
Oh my god. I mean, okay, yeah, that whole campaign with him and Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, I can't. Like, they gave the libertarians such a bad name, that people who are looking at libertarians as like a third option are like, oh, yeah, go back to Trump or Hillary because these people are weirdos. And then you see, you also see of like the debates and how people are like standing up in their underwear or whatever they're doing in the convention. Just like, what are they doing? Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Do you know what I'm talking about? Where there were people, I don't know exactly when it was, but it was recently, maybe in 2016 when we were doing the whole presidential campaign or whatever. But there are people who are like having debates, but there are these people standing up and they're like in their underwear or in these black clothes. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's totally crazy the stunts people pull.
Some people say if you're a libertarian, you can do whatever you want. That's what the libertarians want. They'll let you do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want. That's what libertarians think.
Oh, that's libertines, man. No, honestly, the LP convention was a little bit of a shit show. There was a lot of good moments. There was a lot of happy, hugging, meeting people, but there was a lot of things that happened there. There's on like 3 different occasions and different nights, there were like bar fights. So there's a few stories I can't even talk about just because we all promised like not to talk about it, but it was crazy. The libertarians are crazy. But there's a reason why I would prefer if Bill Weld would just become good on the issues versus him just being terrible and just being hopeless. I would like him to be good on the issues because he honestly has a lot more reach than a lot of other libertarians. I mean, I just went to support my friend Joshua Smith in the Mises Caucus. He lost, but Alex Merced won the vice president spot. But the point being, most people have probably heard of Bill Weld. No one's heard of hardly anyone else or my friends or, it's just kind of the way it is. So if Bill Weld is better on the issues, he's going to be able to reach a lot more people. That's the only hope I have for him. But yeah, I have a feeling when I do talk to him about these issues, he's not going to be what people expect him. People are going to expect him to be like, oh, I used to misunderstand gun control restrictions and now I don't promote them anymore. Now I understand why we should get rid of the Fed and have like a sound monetary policy. Like, gee, thanks. But we'll see what he says. I don't have too high of a hopes for that.
I mean, especially with with 2020 coming up real fast. And I'm sure he knows that he's definitely at the top of, at their list of who they want to be the president. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have that. I don't know if it's a genuine change, but I'll bet you money he'll have different opinions from 2016.
Well, here's one thing about Bill Weld for sure is
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One thing about Bill Weld for sure is he's the type of guy that says what he has to say in political situations. He's been in politics a long time. He knows what to say in front of Group A. He knows what to say in front of Group B. So he's very conscious about like what he has to say to certain people. I'm more interested in what he actually thinks. You know what I mean? I want to know what do you, Bill Weld, actually think? Just off camera, versus what do you think you're supposed to be saying? I get the idea every time I've listened to him. He just says what he thinks he's supposed to say. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean that's going to be a hard case for him to sell.
That would make you inconsistent, right?
Yeah, it would, and that would be the biggest knock on him, is that he's a flip flopper. I mean, that's like politics speak, but he would be a genuine flip flopper because he went from this to this. So what's going on? I mean, there are politicians who have genuinely flipped. I can't remember his name, but there is a politician who used to be like, he was for like the wars and all that, but then he realized.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he was for like, all the Iraq wars. We need this, and then he realized, oh, I was wrong, and then now he called the families of soldiers that died or whatever. And
yeah.
I can't remember. I wish I remember his
name.
I
did hear about that story. Yeah, he reached out to people, the families he affected. That takes a lot of balls. I mean, a lot of people like John McCain, they don't feel an ounce of sorrow for the destruction they've caused, the orders they've gave out that have killed so many people in just the most horrid ways. People that had nothing to do with anything. And whether it's related to Israel or Palestine, what is clear on both sides is that when people want to make themselves look like victims, if someone's trying to bomb me because I tried to bomb someone else, well, of course, I'm going to put up my children in front of them. I'm going to shield them with my family and stuff like that. And then of course, it looks like, oh, I blew up a family. Well, this happens on both sides, and it's just absolutely sick. It's one of the sickest things of warfare. It's also one of the sick things about the state in general, just that I don't know if you guys have ever read Anatomy of the State, but he talks about the idea that we are the government. If we are the government, then anything the government does is justified. And furthermore, if we are the government, then if someone attacks the Twin Towers in 9/11, they're attacking us. They're not attacking the decisions of foreign policy leaders around the globe the past 30, 40 years. No, it's just they're attacking us because they hate our freedoms. It's just boiled down to such a simplistic notion that we forget that these wars are between politicians. Obviously, people living in New York City or in Los Angeles, like they're not out trying to sponsor war. This is done by the whim of politicians. We forget that often.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I don't know what to say after that. But what do you think?
I feel like that was like, I don't know what to say.
That was the ending right there. I think it's 8 o'clock. I think I gotta hop off, but
yeah. But I'm sorry that you had the technical issue during the middle of it. But we'll definitely have to do it again.
Let's do this again soon sometime. It'll be a pleasure, and hopefully updates won't catch me.
Yeah, make sure you get those updates up and running so you don't.
Yeah.
But
we'll have a hardwire by then. Someone was pointing out that our internet makes our stream slower.
Are you guys direct connected into the router, or are you using wireless?
Wireless.
Yeah. I use direct connect too, but I'm on like 100-foot Ethernet cable, so even mine's probably a little bit slow sometimes. But yeah, Ethernet will do it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out probably like the next 3 years or so. Anyway.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you coming on, and we'll have to do this again real soon.
All right, sounds good, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.